Would someone be willing to read all of chapter 19 for me? I need a good background.
Sure.
Anyone who wants to do that.
I got you. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with a sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, "So may the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow." Then he was afraid, and he arose and ran for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat under a broom tree. And he asked that he might die, saying, "It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers." And he lay down and slept under a broom tree. And behold, an angel touched him and said to him, "Arise and eat." And he looked, and behold, there was at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came again and said, a second time, and touched him and said, "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you." He arose and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. There he came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mountains before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind was an earthquake. After the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of a new low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenants, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Israel, or over Syria. And Jehu, the son of Nishmi, you shall anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, and Abel-Meholah, you shall anoint to be prophet in your place. And the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael shall Jehu put to death. And the one who escapes the sword of Jehu shall Elisha put to death. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." So he departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was the 12th. He was with the 12th. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah, saying, "Let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow you." And he said to him, "Go back again, for what have I done to you?" And returned from following him, and took the yoke of oxen, and sacrificed them, and boiled their flesh with the yokes of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he arose and went after Elijah and assisted him.
Bless you. Two blessings.
Hold on to that one.
Okay, and now we get to Romans chapter 11, starting verse 1. "I say then, has God rejected his people? May it never be. For I too am an Israelite, a seed of Abraham, the tribe of Benjamin. God has not rejected his people whom he foreknew. Or do you know that what the scripture says about in the passage about Elijah, how he appeals to God against Israel? Lord, they have killed your prophets. They have torn down your altars, and I alone am left, and they are seeking my life. But what does the divine response say to him? I have left for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. In this way, then, at the present time, a remnant, according to God's gracious choice, has also come to be. But it is by grace. It is no longer of works. Otherwise, grace is of no longer grace. What then? What Israel is seeking, it has not obtained, but the chosen obtained it, and the rest were hardened. And just as it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes to see not, and ears to hear not, down to this very day. And even David says, let their table become a snare and a trap, and let a stumbling block and a retribution to them. Let their eyes be darkened to see not, and bend their backs forever. I'm going to stop there because that's more than what we can deal with. We just came off of chapter 10 about how do I want to say this? On how the Israelites didn't do what they were called to do, and that was to, I kind of want to say it this way, but it's not true, to let the world know about God. I mean, that's, and he just came off of that in 10 at the end there. He talks about what they did. 21 summarized, all day long I have stretched out my hands to a disobedient and obstinate people. Kind of almost take it personally, actually, but learning from that. So Paul then comes back and says, I say then, or I ask, we've talked about that he constantly either uses, I'm asking or I'm saying, it's like I'm saying yes, both to that. Has God rejected his people? And that's a core question. That reading of that caused me to get into something that is called replacement theory. It's apparently quite popular among many people. I did not know this. And I don't know a whole lot about replacement theory, but the core of it, I think, is that the promises that God has now, today, after Jesus Christ, after Jesus, that all the promises that are still left, all the blessings that are still yet to be fulfilled, are us, the Christians, and no longer Israel, because God has forsaken them. He has replaced them, and that's the replacement theory with it.
Yeah, there's other terms you'll hear meaning basically the same thing as
Substitute?
Yeah,
supersessions? Yeah.
Or also, you were saying replacement theology, but also, just escaped.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's another real common one. Anyway.
Yeah, so I was surprised. I was surprised that people would have thought that. I really did. But there's some.
But there's a subset of Baptists,
Yeah.
Reformed Baptists, on average, or hold to this view.
Yeah.
So
and then and this is what we talked about a few weeks ago. Kind of trying to do with 10 and 9. So, and then you have the other side. A lot of evangelicals go way extreme and like, oh, Israel is anything they do is fine, and no, in the middle is the truth. I mean, that's we don't need to. God's going to deal with that. No, Christ came for them too, so they must accept the gospel also. You see, and that's the problem. You say one thing, or you're a replacement theology. If you say something else, oh, you're all for Israel. No, I'm in the middle. What is it? The kingdom is already, but not yet.
yeah.
That's kind of where we're at. The middle is actually the truth.
Yeah. And that one fine shade of gray different than replacement theology is fulfillment theology. And what that is, says that, you know, instead of talking about the church, it says, like, replacement theology says, the church replaced Israel.
Right.
And then fulfillment theology says all these verses talk about Jesus being the fulfillment. So therefore, there is no place, there is no importance or significance of Israel in the future, now or in the future. Whereas we're gonna see right here in chapter 11 that there's still, even though right now there's very few believers out of Israel, like very few Jews are believers. And even those that have resettled what is now Israel are mostly secular.
Right.
So there's already been a reestablishment of Israel in disbelief, but yet there's going to be a big importance with the Jews yet in the future, including in belief. We're going to see here shortly many Jews in the last days, during the tribulation times, millennial times, there's many Jews have a role yet to come.
And I will say this, listen, I don't agree with replacement theology. I'm in the middle, because you get the, but don't think, there's no basis for this. Go research, because there's text that you can take that way, and listen, I don't agree with it, because there's also texts that go contrary to that thought process. That's why you hear a lot of scholars would be in the middle saying, yes, this is true, but then there's other texts that go against replacement theology. So somewhere in the middle is the truth. So that's why I tell everybody, just don't think, I can't believe that. Actually, go listen, but do your own research, and really that's why they'll say in the middle is actually the truth. And what is all Israel? They'll tell you this, go read it. What is all Israel? Well, think about it. Seed of Abraham, people of faith. So it's not cut and dry in a sense, but I'm with you. They'll say, hey, replacement theology? No, it's still a plan for Israel. And it's, I would say, research, because it's pretty interesting, quite frankly.
You were not.
I just saying all this is just leads to unlimited interpretation, sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, I like chocolate, I like vanilla, well, I'm gonna mix them
Right.
together.
You know, I'd draw a limit on the unlimited, because,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we're gonna see here, I mean, you just reading it, the plain reading is that on average, Israel has rejected, so they're rejected, they're over here, but there's still a role for them, and there's
Yes.
still a lot of them gonna come to
Amen.
Christ, and,
Amen.
Right.
so we need to, that part we know. Now, all the minute details,
Yeah.
maybe there's,
That is the best way to look. That's the most common sense way to look at it. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah, I can't explain. No one can really explain it, because there is a difference of opinion. That's the best way to explain it.
And you also have to be careful of not lumping everybody into one bucket.
That's right.
Because the nation of Israel, not the political nation, but the God-fearing Israel, Jewish, are a bunch of individuals. And there's good, there's bad, there's believers, there's non-believers, etc. So, you know, I had troubles like saying Americans, they're all this way. Well, not really.
It's akin to racism.
It is, but but how else can you talk? I mean, I'm not against talking that way, because it helps describe. But we have to realize it's all individuals. I mean, Jesus was a Jew. You know, all the prophets were Jews. So they're individuals, but they had a lot that rejected. So, you know, to me, it's hard to say, well, I'm a Jew, so therefore, that's where you get into that, I don't know the right terminology of.
But that's where the
birthright.
Jews get in trouble, because what they like to do, unfortunately, is because of their lineage, group themselves together. And that's why Christ, the church, is individuals.
Right.
That everything we're saying, it makes perfect sense. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, Paul addressed that in here.
Yes,
addressed
he
it in
did.
Romans,
Yes,
right?
he
That's
did.
what he says. He said, just because you're a Jew doesn't give you any prominent place over the Gentiles.
Right.
It's part of what the book of Romans is written about.
Right.
You know, that we all have to come to Christ.
Yep.
But I think the whole idea of replacement theology and the debate over it and everything is, you know, in the future, all having to do with with the return of Christ,
Right.
is how are the Jewish people gonna be dealt with? What are they gonna experience and everything? Cause I think, I mean, I don't see how you can completely rule out the whole end of this book being a lot of it being about how God deals with his people, with the people that he chose and picked out from the world and brought the Messiah through them. I mean, I can't see how you can just discount that whole,
Yeah.
that whole,
It's kind of like the Gentiles. I look at both of them in a sense, both the same. God's invitation is going to be there.
Yeah.
It's up to you to accept whether you're Gentile or Jew. And it's specifically, I think, as a nation, the Jews have, as a nation.
as a nation.
But
As a
in the
nation.
end, even with, we look at the Revelation, God's hand is just not, again, they're going to be offered to the Jews, but it's also offered to, because you got a lot of believers who come
Yes.
to it. So we got to look at it as, again, individual.
Right, right.
Corporate, election is, hey, I'm giving you grace. And I think the problem is both sides pick certain things out, but the best way, you explained it the best way. That's how we need to look at it. But no one does, because they want to be right on everything. That's bad.
I think we forget too, is that all of Israel, they may have been Jewish in culture and Jewish in race, but not all of Israel were believers. They were checked a box because that was their culture. They went to temple because that was their culture. That was the thing to do, but their heart was not in it. The belief behind what they were doing. They were doing the works, right? But they weren't. But their heart behind the reason why they were doing the works.
And First Kings, you just read it.
Yeah.
I love it. When you went there, that's a great example. I love it because what did he say? All of Israel was rejected. What does God say? No. And when you were talking, First Kings is a perfect example. We
Yeah.
have to be very careful. I love the Americans. All these examples make perfect sense. What
Right.
we're trying to say.
Okay, so Paul posed this question: has God rejected his people? He comes back with, may it never be, for I too am an Israelite, a seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. I guess, working backwards from that, why is Paul stating that he's from Benjamin and a seed of Abraham and an Israelite? Why is he saying that?
He was like just pointing out he's a Jew of Jews, he's a Jew, the epitome of.
He's coming from their
Yes.
perspective, right? He's coming from their heritage, their culture, if you will, and not an
He's more of a
not
Jew
an
than you
outsider.
are.
Yeah, I'm more of a Jew than you are. Take that.
G 2.0.
That's right. 2.0 plus.
And he dropped the mic. He walked
That's right.
away.
Yeah, well, I guess I could ask that question right in there between verse 1 and 2. Why did he not just stop there and leave and say that? Probably because he needs to clarify. God has not rejected his people whom he foreknew. Remember, we talk about the foreknowledge of God. There's a foreknowing and there's a prescribing. Where people will take this and say, well, then why does it matter? Because God already knew all of this was going to happen, so why even bother? Those kinds of thoughts start to kick in with it. Jay, you were going to ask a
Well, no, you asked why didn't he just stop there, but this is the preamble. I know it's not in the
It's not
original,
the
it wasn't
annal,
a
it's the
new
preamble.
book, but it's always the very beginning of the letter. It's always, I'm there, I've been an apostle of Christ, and so basically giving himself
the authority,
the authority, or not giving himself authority, but
stating his
stating his authority, showing his badge, so to speak, that he has authority to say what he's about to say.
Mhm.
So, to me, that's just a preamble
Okay.
of the stuff coming up. Sorry to go back.
That's all right. No, all right. I went quick. So anyways, on the foreknowledge, it's just that he is not rejecting his people is what Paul was saying. Because he already foreknew verse 21 of chapter 10. You're going to be an obstinate, stiff-necked people. And yet he still did that. Do you not know the scripture? And that's why I wanted to go back to Kings, because this is what, that is what this is about there is a remnant, and that's the word that we kind of read it over here, if your translation had it. That was the idea of verse 18 of 1 Kings 19, remnant, 7,000. 7,000 seems like a lot of number, but when you compare it to millions,
Maybe, right.
7,000 is nothing with that.
You know, and it made me think something. I think the problem with replacement theology, I think what people, and this is what when you all talk, people want to say, well, God has pulled his grace message from the Jews. And what I mean is, no, he's still got the message out. You want to be saved, accept the gospel. Does that make sense? I think what they say is, well, God's no longer dealing with Israel. They can no longer come to grace.
Right.
Because that's what they're really saying. But this verse is right there says, no, they still can choose me, but it's up to them.
It's not as a nation,
Yes,
it's as an individual.
yes.
Yeah.
They're not excluded, they're just lost their free pass.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
that
no,
they-
even First Kings, it wasn't a free
I
pass.
don't think it was a free pass.
Well, not a free pass, but they lost their
even,
weakness.
even with their lineage, they had to keep the law. So it's always been by faith.
True.
So my point to all that, though, is where with what we're talking about replacement theology is like they're saying, I never realized it. No, God has pulled his grace message from them. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. It's still offered to them. It's up to them to accept, I love it, as an individual. And I never really thought about that is, that's what replacement theology is. God has said, I'm done with you. I'm, in a sense, force you not to believe. That's nowhere in the Bible.
He's not rejecting them as a nation,
No.
and he cannot. To me, a rejection means, yeah, you take away your promise, but you cannot get in here anymore.
Right.
And as individuals, they can,
That's
but
right.
they have to
That's
individually
right.
accept
That's right.
Yeah.
and believe.
That's
And,
right.
I mean, if you look at the way that God dealt with Israel, God blessed them in a way that would make the other nations jealous.
Right.
Right? He gave them special blessings. Even though they were disobedient, they walked, they were in the desert for 40 years, their shoes never wore out. He provided them with food. So all of these miracles that he gave to the nation to prove to the other nations how great a God he was. I think that's the stuff that's been removed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the extra blessing and the
Extra
miracles and all of those things and using Israel as a representative of who he is to the
But
world.
why did he have to keep, see, this is another thing, it goes for Africa. Why did he have to keep the Jewish nation alive in the Old Testament? For the Messiah.
Yeah.
That's where the
absolutely.
grace was
Yes,
coming from.
Yes.
And that's what, again, that's the message we have. We don't want to go back to the Old Testament, kind of read it and look at. It's awesome what God has done. Because God said, I'm not going to break my promise.
Yes.
And the only time he really punished, the only time he punished them, when they worship other gods.
Right.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Then he punished them, and then he said, well, I got to keep them alive
Right.
because my Messiah is coming from them.
Right. Yep.
I want to say something. You triggered a thought. I don't think this is right, but let me just say it.
We'll jump on you if it's not.
Yeah, if you're triggered.
I know
we're
y'all
gonna
are
get
too nice. You're not going to say anything about it. But you said it. The promise was to make sure Jesus came out the back end, so to speak. So the promise, does that not cancel the promise, but was the promise fulfilled? So going forward, they don't really have a continuing promise. In other words, goal was achieved, next. Not that they're rejected, it's just that their promise kind of not fizzled out. It was complete.
We have a new covenant. That's
So
what
we have a new covenant.
Exactly.
I agree there. Which
Yeah.
may be with a different crowd, so to
Yes.
speak, or target audience. But the old covenant was fulfilled,
That's right.
Yeah.
period.
Which Galatians, Paul wrote a whole book about that.
It doesn't mean Israel gets blessed for eternity necessarily. I'm saying as a statement, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it, but that's,
Yeah.
it's another way of looking at it, instead of saying,
There's a
See what
little
I'm
bit,
saying?
yeah, I do, and I'm a little concerned that that's an easy way to get back into replacement.
Right.
Yeah, I
To
I
get
don't,
to say
I struck- that's
fulfill,
where I- yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I can see the natural
Right.
thought of going, fulfill, therefore, done,
Yeah,
so we're now on to something new.
I think the whole idea of.
I can see
Well,
how
I
that
can see
could
your point.
happen. I can see how it could
That's
go
why I'm
that
saying I'm
way.
not believing, I'm just,
Yeah,
the way you said something, dropped
Yeah,
out
no,
of
no,
the
I
slot.
think, again, I go back to how you said it. Some has been fulfilled, but there's still other things that haven't been. You've
True,
got to use common,
true.
we have to use common sense when we read it as a total, but don't pull certain verses out. I go back to 007, the way he explained it is the best way to accept it. Some have been fulfilled, but there's other things we know have not been. So you can't just go Israelite as a nation.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
I think that, you know, and Paul even addressed it here in Romans, that it's the heritage
Yeah.
that you can't throw away.
Yeah.
You know, everything, the prophets and everything, it all came through Israel. So you can't throw all of that away, right? There's an importance to God that he did it that way, and therefore there is something in there that will not, you know, that people will still have to make that choice, but that whole heritage of how he brought, you know, the word and the Messiah in, all, you cannot throw that away. And I think the replacement theology does.
Yes.
It just says, like you were just saying, they fulfilled what God wanted them to do, now they're just like everybody else,
Yeah.
kind of thing, you know. And I think, I don't think we can completely say that.
And
I
another
think
way of
there-
looking at it, you can't just rip the Old Testament out and throw it over your shoulder.
Exactly.
Because there's still
Exactly.
a lot of unfulfilled
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
things, prophecies
yes.
in there.
yeah, and I think that's why studying Old Testament is so important.
Oh, absolutely.
It's because, yes, it, you know, it is Christ concealed in the New Testament is Christ revealed, but there's also things in the Old Testament that have not been completely fulfilled, and that we
Well,
see. you know.
why did he go to 1 Kings?
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Paul's quoting the Old Testament.
Yeah.
There's you
Yeah.
read the whole New Testament, everybody's gonna be shocked.
Yes.
You'd be shocked how many times they quote the Old Testament.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you might want to go
If
research
there's
it.
still things to be revealed, it makes me think that this is a whole like prodigal son story. That things are revealed, Israel,
Yes.
all
Good
of a
point.
sudden
Great
mass
point.
believes in Jesus. It's like prodigal son.
I want to be careful about using that word if there's still things to be revealed.
Mhm.
Because the Revelation says very clearly, all that needs to be revealed has been revealed. There is no new revelation to happen. I want to be careful. I know what you meant. Reveal might have been better to say fulfilled, if there's still things to be fulfilled. But I want to be careful because there's groups of people that say, I have a new revelation.
Yeah.
I have a new,
Right.
I've been revealed only by God and has given this to me. So
Yeah.
I always want to be careful about using.
Yeah, we call that cults.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
dead.
It is.
I'm with
It's
you.
spot on. It's what
They're
it
cults,
is.
that's what it's
Well,
saying.
And that's why I want to be cautious about saying
You might want
we have yet to
cut that out.
learn new things, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, all we need to do is look at what Scripture tells us Christ is coming back to,
Right.
right? I mean, if that's not a signal as to, you know, part of the plan at the end of time,
Right.
you know, is to have those people, you know, that, I mean, we talked about Christ as, you know, it says he's darkened their eyes or whatever.
Right.
But to make the point that when he comes back, that veil will be lifted and they'll see him that they crucified.
Yeah.
They'll see him for who he was.
Yeah.
You know, and yet some still were rejecting,
It will be amazing.
you know. So,
Well, even, I look at it, Jews, and even the Gentiles. People
Yeah.
act like the Jews are the only one that played a part. No,
Yeah, right.
we played a part too. So
Right.
even when he comes, there's a lot of people who know the gospel, reject it. Some of us still be alive and say, oh my goodness,
yeah, yeah.
oh my goodness, look what we did.
Okay, we need to stop here. Sorry.
So where are we?
Two.
Yeah.
We started two, but we didn't finish.
Again, one.
Moving on.
I was actually kind of surprised we would get past that first question.
Again, 1 yard.
That's
We ran 30.
I know some football teams that we could.
Yeah, LSU,
Yeah,
and go
I
to
could see
ground game and be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Tush push through next time.
Well, we're going to segue into what are you guys praying for?